All right, the next bill on the agenda is House File 3549. Chair Anderson, would you like to move your bill?
Madam Chair, yes, I'd like to move, Vice Chair, I'd like to move my bill, House File 3548. And there is an amendment, Madam Chair.
49. What did you say?
48.
40. Chair Anderson? We are on House File 3549.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Other pile. Yeah, Madam Vice Chair, I'd like to move the bill, House File 3549, and I do again have an amendment for this bill as well, Madam Chair.
All right, Chair Hansen moves that House File 3549 will be referred to the General Register. Chair Anderson, would you like to move the A1 amendment?
Yeah, I would, Madam Vice Chair, move the A1 amendment, and it just makes a minor change in the bill. I think gives it a little bit more teeth, if you will. And again, the purpose of the bill is to make sure the money in the grain indemnity fund stays there and is used only for the purposes intended of it from the original legislation, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Chair Anderson moves that H 3549 A1 amendment to get the bill in shape he would like. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Chair Anderson, please present your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House File 3549 is a realization that things happen in the world that we can't control. And it has to do with farmers who sell product, in this case grain, and they don't get paid for it through no fault of their own. We had a company this past summer in Nebraska that declared bankruptcy. And the latest numbers as of this morning I got from the Department of Ag, the total claims put in by Minnesota producers are $1.1 million. And some of those claims are for grain sold outside the state, but so for claims here in Minnesota by Minnesota producers is $842,000, which is a considerable sum of money. And the original grain indemnity fund was passed bipartisanly, I think 3 years ago. The state put in the original $10 million, and the fund has been growing ever since that time with interest. And I believe the amount in the fund right now is about $10.8 million. And it's growing with the interest, but now there will be money taken out of it when these claims are paid, and hopefully some of that is going to be restituted back again to the state. But language says the fund will not be fully funded until it gets to a total of $15 million. And what my bill says is that we can't take any money out of that fund for purposes other than is in the statute language. And those are listed from 1.11 to 1.15. And I'm just concerned that especially in these difficult times when a lot of production by farmers is done at below cost of production prices, that if we were to be hit again by another fee being collected to replenish this fund, it would not bode well, not sit well with the farmers in Minnesota. So all my bill does, Madam Chair, is to put a few guardrails around what the bill can be used for. And we did take some money out of it last year, I will say that it went to help cushion the increases for grain inspection fees of elevators in Minnesota. But with the bankruptcy of the firm in Nebraska, I think it illustrates how quickly the fund can be drawn down, and we need to keep the interest in that fund until it reaches the full funding of $15 million. And that, Madam Chair, is my bill.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Members, we have heard this bill and offered testimony in a previous meeting, but is there anyone who would like to testify for or against House File 3549 as amended? Seeing none, are there questions from members for the bill author? Representative Hansen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to recommend a no vote. Times are difficult all over. We have had several attempts to fund food programs here. It doesn't make sense to lock up money, $15 million for the future. I think we've got tough decisions ahead, maybe this session and future sessions, as the consequences of federal action or inaction are happening. So I would recommend a no vote.
Chair Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Chair Hansen, I respectfully disagree with you that legislatures put money into funds for certain purposes, and I don't think it's right that we raid those funds. You tried, I think it was 2 years ago, to take money out of the fund for another purpose, and that was voted down. And like I say, we did take money last year for a related purpose, but I just think in this downturn in the ag economy, it would not do well to say that these funds are open to being raided and the interest taken from them to go to other purposes. The money in the fund should stay in the fund. I strongly believe that, and that's where I stand, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. Oh, okay. All right. Representative Frederick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for House Research. Is there anything that is preventing any legislator of any party in a future year of, let's say this bill passes, is there anything that is preventing a future legislative body from saying we're going to nullify this and then do something else with the funds anyways?
Thank you, Representative Frederick. Who would like to take that question?
Thank you, Chair. Representative Frederick, you are correct that this legislature cannot bind future legislatures, and future legislatures can just not withstand this provision.
Thank you. Representative Frederick?
That's it, Mr. Chair. That's, I think, why I scratched my head a little bit about that provision because, yeah, next year Chair Anderson could say, well, there's this other program that he becomes really passionate about and could choose to take these funds for some, or like advocate for these funds for some other way, or anybody here could. So I don't quite understand that provision. And I think because of that, it doesn't make sense to me. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. Chair Anderson?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Representative Frederick, you raise a valid point. Well, I knew that, but I think this would send a message to at least think long and hard about taking money out of the fund. Yes, it can be taken. I understand that. But this language, I think, would kind of put a parameter around it and saying, unless it's a real dire situation, I don't think the money should be touched. And I agree that I can't determine what future legislatures do, but I think this bill just sends a message that the intent of this body would be to keep the money intact for its intended purpose.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comment? Representative Burkle.
Thank you, Chair Harder, and thank you for this bill, Chair Anderson. I think in the last few years, we've seen a number of bankruptcies that have affected farmers on the ground. Have had to wait a long time for their money, if they got any and all. In a lot of cases before this fund, I think the average was maybe, and maybe the department could verify, but if I remember, it was 11% roughly is what folks would get in the situation where you had a bankruptcy and farmers were affected. So I hope folks are listening out there if you're in rural areas. I specifically think of Kitson County when we had an elevator that went bankrupt up there, and we had folks waiting for 2 years and got about 10% of their money. So the fund's set up for a purpose. We have funds set up for purposes all over this legislature. I hope our rural areas are listening to how this vote goes today. We set up this indemnity account for a reason, and it's really to protect folks who really have no control over a bankrupt elevator. So with that, I just hope that there's support, especially from rural members. If you're thinking about your farmers right now and the situations they're in, and the fact that they could be waiting for money with a bank hovering over them, waiting for their money, it's important we keep this fund intact. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Burkle. Representative Gottfried.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this good discussion today. And you know, I agree with you, Representative Burkle. This is the Grain Indemnity Fund, and I think its purpose is already written within the title of the fund itself. So much like my colleague, Representative Frederick, I don't understand a piece of legislation that says, "Yep, this is indeed the Grain Indemnity Fund that we have money in." So to me, this bill doesn't feel like it actually addresses a problem that we have. The Grain Indemnity Fund is the Grain Indemnity Fund, and nothing that we do in this bill today prevents future legislatures from tapping into it or not tapping into it. So I appreciate the intent of the bill, but I don't know that it actually accomplishes what the goal is here today. And to me, it does not feel like an effective piece of legislation to prevent what it is trying to prevent. And for that, I will be voting no on this. Thank you.
Representative Hansen.
Just a final word, the fund was created with general fund, general tax dollars.
Representative Gander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The one thing that this specific wording does accomplish is it creates a recommendation, which again, future legislatures would not be bound to just sort of mechanically, how are we going to operate this fund? It's nowhere in there elsewhere to say that if it's below $15 million, that we won't take money for other purposes. If it's over 15 million, we could. So it really is a novel addition to the bill. It is not redundant. It is not superfluous. It really does create an additional component that is not there already. Thank you.
Representative Burkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And last comment. Yes, Representative Hansen, the fund was created with general fund dollars. It is maintained by farmers from this point on, and that's the problem here. To Representative Godfrey's point, if the fund drops under $8 million and farmers have to kick back in to build that fund back up, the concern then is over time, in a longer period of time, farmers are going to be, that fund's going to be rated and it's farm dollars. So I concur with Chair Hansen's comment about general fund dollars, but going forward, it'll be farmers' dollars. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, Chair Anderson, do you have any concluding remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like a roll call on this vote, please. And the testimony has been interesting. And, you know, we can't bind future legislatures. So what if the fund got down to 5 million? There are really no guardrails as to when it could be, I'll use the word rated or not. And current law gives Commissioner Peterson the authority on, I believe it's July 1st of any year that the fund drops below $8 million. And I don't think anybody in that position would relish the thought of adding a fee onto the production that farmers sell, especially in these times of really difficult finances for people in agriculture. I renew my motion that this bill would put a little more teeth into not being as apt to raid this fund in future years. And it would be my hope, Madam Chair, that future ag committees would see this as a fund that they should not raid, even though there's nothing that prevents that from being done. But again, being the ag committee, advocating on behalf of farmers and all, I think this bill would make sense and provide some comfort as this fund sits there, going to be rated, going to be utilized now for about $1 million to pay this latest bankruptcy. get the fund down to close to 9 million. And one more instance could put it down to the area where it may have to be the fee assessed on farmers. So with that, again, Madam Chair, I renew my motion that House File 3549 as amended be referred to the General Register.
All right, Chair Anderson renews his motion that House File 3549 as amended be re-referred to the General Register. A roll call being requested. There will be a roll call.
Representative Anderson.
Oh, Anderson, aye.
Representative Hansen.
No.
Representative Harder.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
No.
Representative Egbadje.
No.
Representative Burkle. Representative Frederick.
No.
Representative Gander.
Aye.
Representative Gottfried.
No.
Representative Jacob. Representative Lawrence. Representative Lee.
Lee, no.
Representative Nelson.
Nelson, aye.
Representative Vang.
No.
All right, there being 7 ayes and 7 nays, the motion lacks an affirmative vote of the majority of the committee membership, and the motion does not prevail. And the bill will be laid over. Correct? All right.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask council if, in a bill does not meet the majority, that it's failed, correct? Versus being laid over.
Chair, I'm not sure right now. I could get look for it.
This bill has been heard before, and it has been laid over. So my recommendation is that the bill should be laid over for future consideration. Chair Hansen.
Madam Chair, we had bills last week that died on a tie vote and were announced as dying on a tie vote. A tie vote is, my understanding under the agreement, is a tie vote is a die.
All right, committee, any bill can be picked up and moved by majority of members when a bill has been laid over or failed. Other committees have been doing it the same way, where they have laid over bills that have not received the majority, and I will reiterate, this bill will be laid over for future consideration.
Madam Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
Chair Hansen?
So with that interpretation, does that mean that any amendment that failed on a tie vote or any bill that previously failed on a tie vote in this committee is eligible for future consideration if it received a majority vote? If it would receive a majority vote in the future?
Chair Hansen, the answer would be yes, if the majority of the committee approves. All right. Thank you. The bill is laid over.